So the first point is what's called preconditions. And that's all about how to set up our life in such a way to support this practice. It's an effective framework for this practice. And we're going to look at this towards the end of the first half of the retreat, how to set up our life in such a way to support this practice, to give us the best framework for engaging in this practice. And then the actual practice, of course, any practice we do always has two parts. The first part of practice is meditation. And then the second part of any practice is what we do for the rest of the day. Because if we only ever meditate, and we can do that diligently every day, but then we jump up and run around like normal, then our behaviour in our day will go against what we're trying to do in the morning. So we need to, whatever we're meditating on in the morning in meditation, we need to bring that into the day. So we'll have a look at how to do that later in this retreat as well. Now in the actual meditation, of course, any meditation also has two parts. There's the preparation, preparing ourselves at the beginning of each meditation session so we're in a good state to do the actual meditation. And then, of course, the actual meditation. And we'll look at this preparation in a little bit more detail shortly, but just to finish off this overview here. So in the actual Shamatha meditation, there are 4 points that I'd like to look at. Starting this evening and then continuing tomorrow. And that is, the first one is, what qualities are we cultivating in this practice? And of course, in this Shamatha practice, we're developing single point of concentration. So we are focusing on an object. So the second point is, what object should we focus on in this practice? The third point here then is, what tools do we use in the practice? And the fourth point I'm looking at tomorrow is, what sort of faults can come up in this practice and how do we overcome them? So we're going to look at these 4 main points for the actual Shamatha meditation. Before we go to preparation, there's one more thing we're going to be looking at in this retreat here. And that is stages of progress. So in any practice, it would be helpful to know, are we going in the right direction? And where are we in the practice? How do we know if we're progressing and how far we've got in the practice? So of course in your handouts there's a nice chart there that we're going to be looking at over the next couple of evenings. So in the evening session we'll be looking at stages of progress in the Shamatha practice. So these are the points we're going to be covering in the theory side of this retreat here, particularly in the first half in the Shamatha training. So let's have a look now at preparation. And with preparation, we can talk about preparing 3 things. we can talk about preparing body, speech and mind. And of course here we're talking about preparing ourselves at the beginning of every meditation session. So of course preparing the body is setting up a good posture. And two main things important with posture. First is to have the back nice and straight, because if the back's not straight, you're sort of sitting here like this, you're probably just going to fall into a lot of dullness. So keep the back straight. And the other second important thing is to allow the entire body to become completely relaxed. Back straight, body relaxed. But let's have a look at a few things in terms of body position to help have a back straight and body relaxed. First is what to do with the legs. In the meditation manuals, of course, they talk about the best position of the legs is what's called full lotus. You have one foot on either thigh like this, but I think most of us in the modern world are not flexible enough to do that. So they say, okay, if you can't do that, do half lotus, where you have one underneath and one on top. Again, most of us are probably not flexible enough to do that. So most of us end up sort of sitting cross-legged, which is fine. But many of us are very stiff in the groin and the knees and so forth. And so what we end up doing when we sit cross-legged, we probably end up sitting here like this, with the knees sticking up in the air like that. And that's not very good for at least two reasons. One is it's not very stable, and second is it tends to put a lot of strain on the lower back and in the groin. So we get a lot of pain in the groin and lower back. So if we're sitting like that, it's symptomatic that we're very stiff. So then what we need to do, of course, is add more cushions here. Sit on more cushions so that the knees are at least level with the hips and ideally touching. So you have 3 points of contact, very stable. And also, if you're not sitting on enough cushions, what will happen is, in terms of the back straight, it will keep collapsing, and you're sort of straining to keep it straight, and it just collapses. Strain, collapse, strain, collapse. So if you're finding that it's straining to keep the back straight and you're collapsing, then add more cushions so that your back is naturally straight. You find the more cushions, your back will become naturally straight. So use as many as you need to be straight in the back and not straining to keep it straight. Now, some people find that when they sit cross-legged, it cuts circulation. One or both legs go numb. So then you can experiment a little bit with the position. And also sometimes people put a little cushion between the two legs so they're not pushing so hard on each other. Something very thin there. That can help. But what can also help is, instead of crossing the legs, you can have one in front of the other. So that's a bit like sort of the Burmese posture. So you just have sort of one in front of the other like that. And that can also be very, very helpful. Or you could, like some people, tuck one foot in there like that. That's often what I tend to do as well. So that can help as well, not to avoid cutting circulation. So you can experiment a little bit with that. Some people have knee problems and they can't sit cross-legged. So then there's another option where you can get like what's called a meditation stool, a low stool where you tuck your legs underneath. So that could be an option if you have knee problems. You might like to experiment with one of those. Some people find that even that is not very helpful. Then, of course, here in this retreat, we've got plenty of chairs available, so you can sit in a chair to meditate. If you're using a chair to meditate, I think most chairs are not really designed for meditation. They're sort of designed a little bit for slouching. So if you find you're slouching in the chair, then often what can be helpful is to have a cushion under the lower part of your back to keep the back straight so you're not slouching in the chair. So you can have a chair, but then you can sit with your feet flat on the floor as well with the chair. What to do with the hands? In Tibetan Buddhism, generally the one you find being taught is you place your right palm in the left, thumbs touching, and rest them in your lap like this. And that's symbolising, the left side is symbolising wisdom, the right side is symbolising compassion, and thumbs touching is symbolising we're practicing them together. So that's the one that's usually taught in Tibetan Buddhism. But if you find that a little bit uncomfortable, you can just rest your hands on your knees, that's completely okay as well. Whatever you do with your hands, it's good to have a little bit of ventilation under here. If you're sitting here like this, you're sort of a bit stuffy in here, so whether you're doing this or this, a bit of ventilation here would be helpful. What to do with the eyes? Generally, it's recommended in meditation to have them slightly open, because if we have them closed, we tend to get drowsy, because normally for us, eyes closed signals time to sleep. So therefore, have them slightly open and let a little bit of light in. But here, as a beginner, I think we can be very flexible, depending on the type of person we are. Maybe we're the sort of person that really gets highly agitated very easily. Then you may find that a little bit of light coming in, you just get agitated. So then maybe you can have the eyes closed to meditate. But if you're the sort of person who naturally tends to get more drowsy than agitated, then I wouldn't recommend meditating with your eyes closed. You're just going to get drowsy. So then have the eyes slightly open. So that's something you can experiment with, depending on whether you're getting drowsy or agitated. And the head position should be such that if you have the eyes open, you're sort of naturally looking slightly downward. But again, here, head position you can adjust. If you're getting drowsy, elevate a little bit. If you're getting agitated, you can lower it a bit. So like the eyes, head position you can adjust a little bit depending on whether you're getting agitated or drowsy. And of course, keeping the mouth and jaw soft and relaxed, not tensing anything, not any tension in the shoulders and so forth. So that's a few basics about the meditation posture. And so again, the two important things is once you've established the posture, keep the back straight, allow the body to be completely relaxed. And then once you've set up a good posture, is to try and keep the body as still as possible. Because often what we do in meditations, we sort of do this, sort of, we're constantly itching, scratching, moving. Of course, every time we do that, that's a distraction. So if you notice a little itch or scratch, just don't get caught. I mean, that's what we do. So just leave it, don't move. I mean, of course, if partway through the meditation your knee is starting to really hurt a lot, and you need to adjust your posture, then we need to. Otherwise, if you keep still, all your attention is just going to go on the knee. You're not going to be in the meditation. So only move the body when necessary. Other than that, keeping it as still as possible. Any questions about posture? So that's preparing body, preparing speech. Preparing speech here doesn't mean verbal speech, it means mental speech, mental chit-chat. And particularly here in preparation, what can often happen is when we come into meditation, sometimes we come in with a lot of agitation, negative state of mind, and it's very hard to get into meditation if we come into the meditation with a sort of very blah blah negative state of mind. So if we notice that we have a lot of agitation, negativity in the mind when we sit down to meditate, then here, what can be very helpful is to do a little breathing exercise. Some Buddhist traditions talk about counting 21 breaths. Some talk about taking 3 deep breaths. Some, like Tibetan Buddhism, often talk about 9-round breathing exercise, which can be a very elaborate type of breathing exercise with a lot of visualization and so forth. So whether we're doing the counting 21 breaths, the 9-round breathing exercise, or just taking 3 deep breaths, here they have all the same purpose. The purpose, of course, is by focusing on a breath exercise, we can let go of the negative state of mind and bring the mind into a more neutral state. And then, of course, to allow the breathing to settle into its natural rhythm. In the Shamatha practice, we just let the breath do whatever it needs to do. There can be a tendency for people in meditation to control the breath. Because often people think that if I want to meditate well, I have to make my breathing rhythmic, I have to make it subtle. And so people sort of force their breath a little bit in that way. They force it. And then of course what happens usually after some point, people go, because they're not breathing enough. So that's a sure sign we're forcing the breath, controlling the breath. So of course it may sound easy to not control the breath, but in reality, particularly us in the modern world, we like to control things. And the breath is certainly something we have a little bit of control over. So there can be this strong tendency to control the breath. So whenever you notice you're trying to control the breath, just let go, let go, let go, let go. Let the breathing do whatever it needs to do. Of course, there are other practices like pranayama where we're doing breath manipulation, but they have, of course, their own purpose. But here in Shamatha practice, we're not doing any breath manipulation. Just let the breathing do whatever it needs to do. And then preparing the mind, of course, is to bring the mind into the present moment, and of course, having setting a good motivation for the meditation. And preparation is very important because often what people do is either they don't do preparation or they don't do it well. And then they wonder why their actual meditation didn't go so well. So that's a little bit like wanting to do a 100-metre sprint but not warming up. So it probably won't go very well if you don't warm up. So that's what I'd like to do now. I'd like to do a short 15-minute practice of slowly going through this preparation, just to really have those points clear, because preparation is really going to set up ourselves well for the actual meditation. So let's do that now. Let's just do a 15-minute practice, really just slowly going through this preparation phase of meditation. Allowing your awareness to descend into the body. And simply become aware of sensations throughout the body. And if you notice any areas of tightness or tension in any part of the body, then use the out-breath to relax and release that tightness or tension as best you can. And bringing your awareness to the area of your face and softening and relaxing all the muscles in the face. Mouth and jaw, soft and relaxed. And all the muscles around the eyes, soft and relaxed. In this way, allowing the entire body to become completely relaxed, completely at ease. And then we can take 3 slow, deep breaths, maintaining awareness of sensations throughout the body as you breathe. And then allow the breathing to settle into its natural rhythm. Not trying to control or regulate the breath in any way. Simply allowing it to flow naturally, effortlessly. And then give yourself permission to let go of any hopes and fears, worries and concerns about the past or the future. To give yourself permission to let go of all of these things for the duration of this short meditation. And simply allow the mind to come to rest in the present moment. And simply becoming aware of the sensations of the breath throughout the body. Wherever you most easily notice any sensations associated with the breathing. maintaining an ongoing flow of mindfulness of the sensations of the breath. Now, if you find that you got distracted from the breath, then no need to get upset or frustrated. In fact, be happy you've noticed you've got distracted. And the very first thing to do is simply relax. Then release the distraction and very gently return to focusing on the breath. So relax, release and return. Simply keep coming back to the breath again and again, patiently and happily.